या कुन्देन्दु तुषारहार धवला या कुन्देन्दु तुषारहार धवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रा
Please, I request the participants to mute.
या कुन्देन्दु तुषारहार धवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रान्विता या वीणा वरदण्डमण्डितकरा या या कुन्देन्दु तुषारहार धवला शुभ्रवस्त्रान्विता या वीणा वरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेत पद्मासनम् या
Yeah, okay. I am G.V. Ratnam, one of the convener and head of the CSE department. Now I'll tell you briefly about this workshop. It's a 6-day workshop conducting for various group of people. Actually, we invited faculty members from various engineering colleges across the India, research scholars, and also students from UG and PG. This 6-day workshop will be covered by 2 eminent speakers who have a rich experience in their respective domains. First 3 days will be handled by Dr. Sanjeev. He will take care of 5G technologies, and the remaining 3 days will be dealt by Mr. Anirudh. I think it's a very useful workshop for all the participants. Before hand over the session to the resource person, I invite our beloved principal, Dr. S.H. Prasad Rao Garu, to give forward for this workshop. Sir, please.
Hi, good morning. This is Dr. S.H. Prasad Rao, Principal, VKR, VNB and AGK College of Engineering, Gudivada. A warm welcome to all the participants to this international workshop, online workshop. So as we know, the title of this workshop is 5G Technologies with Applications of IoT. So nowadays, it is a good platform. I personally thanks to Dr. Sanjeev, Professor of EC Department, PES University, Bangalore, and Mr. Anirudh Kasturi, Research Scholar, BITS Pilani, Hyderabad. So in this regard, we thanks to Mr. Vikram, who is a common friend of mine and a research person. So I hope all the participants has to gain or enhance your knowledge by the end of this workshop. So thank you very much for all the participants and the resource persons. Thank you for giving this opportunity. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Now I hand over the session to Dr. Sanju. Sir.
Yeah, good morning to everyone. Let me just first share my screen. I'm audible, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Proceed.
Yeah, just a second. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Visible, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let me start out by saying thank you to the management and the organizing committee of this particular workshop, the management of VKR, VNB, and AGK College of Engineering in Gudivada, and the organizing committee, especially Dr. Rao, for reaching out to me and organizing, this workshop on 5G related technologies with applications for Internet of Things. And another special thanks goes to my dear friend Vikram, who is in IIT Madras, and his thoughts are always on enhancing and sharing knowledge. And then I'm just happy to oblige whenever he says, he asked me to do talks like this. So thank you once again for the management of VKR, VNB, and AGK College of Engineering. So we will start with this. I think 5G and Internet of Things are some of the common words that we would have heard in many contexts, and it's one of two of very common words used in electronics and communication engineering research, right? So I would like to talk about introduction to 5G, a little bit on technologies and opportunities. Okay, so before we start, I welcome all the participants. Thank you very much for taking your time off and attending this workshop, because I presume that there is variety of now people in the crowd, perhaps PhD scholars, undergraduate students, graduate students, and fellow colleagues, fellow researchers, a lot of people, I presume. So this particular talk that we're going to have on the first day, which is Introduction to 5G Technologies and Opportunities, is dedicated to it's like more like an introduction to what is 5G, what are different technologies in 5G, and what are opportunities for research. When I say opportunities, it is basically on the research for 5G communication systems. Okay, so it's going to be an introductory talk talking about high level stuff on what is 5G and so on and so forth. My name is Sanjeev, and I work as a professor in the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering in PES University, Ring Road campus, Bangalore. And details about me are available in my website, whose link is given here. Please feel free to check it out. And if you have any questions or any queries or any comments, please write to me on my email ID, which is given here, sanjeevg@pes.edu. So let us start. Before I want to start with introduction to 5G, I want to spend a little time on talking about various research activities that happen in my research group here in PES University. Okay, so this is just to give a flavor of variety of research problems that we work on. And in case you are interested in any of these problems and then you want to pursue something or read more or discuss something, please feel free to write to me. Okay, let's start from here. So the first thing that we look at is the speech technology. Okay, so speech processing is something which I've been looking for past close to 8 to 10 years now in various capacities. One thing that we are interested in speech processing, speech technology, is long-term voice activity detection. What is voice activity detection? It's the fundamental problem where you try to see, think of a situation where you're talking to your friend over phone, and what happens is most of the time you will be talking and then there is also going to be a silence period. Okay, so there is no point in transmitting those silence periods, right? To save the bandwidth, you can only transmit the information whenever speech is present. Okay, for that we have to know when the speech is present and when the speech is absent. Okay, this problem is what is called as voice activity detection, and we use particularly long-term based voice activity detection algorithms, and that is one of the active areas of research that we work on. The second problem that we work on is what is called as language identification using convolutional recurrent neural networks. Neural networks, machine learning, artificial intelligence is big these days, and therefore it has been used in variety of speech technology related problems. What we look into is language identification. Okay, this is one of the, again, a feature which is very essential for under the national education policy which was released in 2020. Natural language processing and language identification is very important, and that's because that in India we have variety of languages, and how do you translate work from one language to the other, and things like that, so that knowledge can be disseminated across the country uniformly. This is one thing that we had. And this language identification problem, we tried it on the Akashvani database. Okay, as you know, Akashvani relays information, news in various Indian languages. So we were able to access the news or Akashvani data set in different languages: Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam, and then Gujarati, Assamese, almost all mainstream Indian languages. And then we were able to show that our language identification method performs very well. Okay, so the third problem that we look into is voice activity detection over power line communications. Okay, so the idea is as follows: if you want to talk to your friend who is sitting in the next building, you are sitting in one building, right next building your friend is sitting, and then if you want to talk, right, okay, through your computer, there is no point in connecting to Wi-Fi. Okay, remember that all these buildings are interconnected using power lines, right? So there is already an existing resource, already an existing channel between the buildings. So why not use that channel to transmit voice or transmit information? Okay, same voice activity detection, but thought over power line communication. In this example, you can see that you have one computer here. This is the second computer, and we were able to transmit information from 1 to 2 through the power line that is given here. Okay, so there is one power line which is going inside the wall, and then we were able to show that establish connection between these two computers, and the same thing can be actually extended to different buildings also. Okay, along with that, we also look into a novel speech representation technique, multi-typer techniques using what is called as modified group delay function. Okay, so that is a slightly involved thing, but just wanted to give a flavor of what that is. Now, the other set of problems that we are interested in is vehicle automation, that is driverless cars, self-driving cars, and so on and so forth. So the idea is these vehicles are expected to be intelligent and driverless, so that they can drive on their own. If there is a target, if there is a pedestrian crossing, then it has to stop. If there is a dangerous turning, then it has to slow down. And if there is tree, or if there is an uphill or something, then it has to arrange change its acceleration accordingly. All these things can be actually done using signal processing techniques. And specifically we looked into target detection using millimeter wave radars. Okay, it's going to be a radar problem again, but this time we'll use millimeter wave radars. Millimeter wave radars are they have signals whose wavelength is of the order of millimeters. Okay, I will be talking about millimeter waves later today. Okay, we were able to successfully show that if you implement this, you will be able to detect targets which are given here like this, right? These are all human targets, and we also showed that we will be able to detect targets like this, what is given here, which is the pothole. Okay, so both these things we have established through experiments. These are all experimental works. Okay, I also look into a lot of problems in next generation physical layer for communications in 5G and then so on and so forth. Okay, we look into integration of different technologies. So there is something called as ambient backscattering communication, and integration of that with cognitive radios is something which is of our current interest. You will see this picture again on the third day. Okay, so there is also We look into heterogeneous cognitive radio networks, performance analysis of that, where you have different types of users coexisting. Okay, and we will also look into what is called as non-orthogonal multiple access, and the integration of non-orthogonal multiple access with the cognitive radios. We also look into the integration of caching systems with 5G cellular networks. I will talk about what caching is in a little bit today. Okay, so we also look into power line communications for Internet of Things. These are all 5G related communication stuff. So I have a lot of things that our group looks into, and that's why this particular picture is big. Along with that, we also look into underwater acoustics. Okay, underwater acoustics, particularly we are interested in looking at source localization with acoustic vector sensor array. Okay, and that too, compressive sensing or compressive sampling based source localization is what we have done. So far in India, the technology that is used for source localization is acoustic pressure sensors only. Very recently, we have also developed acoustic vector sensor array of our own. And we have shown that this method is something which can be readily used for source localization using AVS. Also, we have talked about, or we have worked on algorithms which will give you joint detection, localization, and source number estimation for 3D localization in underwater scenario. Okay, so think of it like this: there is one algorithm which will tell you whether the enemy submarines are present or not, where are they, and how many of them are there. Okay, just one algorithm for all these things. And our funding agency for this problem is the Naval Research Board, NRB. Okay, so this is another class of problems that we look into. And my PhD students have also started to look into multimodal signal processing. This is moving particle source detection using polygon arrays. On the left hand side here, you see a cubical array, right? So there is a moving source here, and it is the job is to actually try to localize or try to do detection on whether there is a moving particle source or not using the cubical array, which is given here. And the second one that is given here is a spherical array. Spherical array is a limiting case of the cubical array. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 faces on a cube, right? So if you have, instead of a cube, you think of more polygon with more number of faces, and then in the limit, as the number of faces tend to infinity, you will get from here to here. Okay, so this is another work that we look into, and my research team, a couple of photos are given here. So coming to the outline of today's talk. Okay, so today's talk, as I told you, is going to be something which is very basic. I thought we will cover basics because there might be undergraduate students also in the crowd who might be interested in knowing a little bit about what is 1G to 4G communication systems. I will talk about a little bit of requirements and challenges in 5G communication systems. I'll also talk about some of the key technologies in 5G communication systems, some applications, and finally conclude. When I say conclude, we'll get into what we want to talk about in the next, that is tomorrow. Okay, so let us start with the introduction. The success story of wireless communication has never been heard before. Okay, so what I mean is, if you are working in the area of wireless communication, you have plenty of research problems to solve. Okay, and the nice thing about this wireless communication is, if you think of any other technology, whether it is radio, television, desktops, or even the internet, okay, any of these technologies, they have not managed to attract so many billions of users in such a short time. Okay, if anything has achieved this, then it is only wireless communication. Okay, so that is like a very, very successful technology that we have seen in recent times. Very, very successful. Okay, so what we start off with is by looking at a little bit of what wireless communication technology is all about. It all started with the first analog wireless communication system in the 1980s. Okay, and ever since, starting from 1980s, a new generation of mobile communication system has come up in every decade. Okay, so basically, first one started in the 80s, the second one started in the 90s, the third one started in the 2000s, fourth one in 2010, and then now we are moving to the next one, and so on and so forth. Okay, for every 10 years, you see a new wireless technology coming up. And everywhere the research attention for us, we are all researchers, and for us, we need to know where should be, what is our goal. In our case, the research attention has always been on key innovations, wireless service regulations and standards, So these are the things which have caught a tremendous amount of research attention from both academia as well as industry. Okay, so in general, when I say key innovations, innovations refers to the factors related to the underlying technology. Okay, for example, the driving technology in 4G communication systems was OFDM. Okay, so there innovations come into picture. And when I say service, wireless service, what I mean is it represents the applications driving a particular generation. Okay, so when wireless communication was started, all the things, the top priority was given for voice calling. Okay, even today, even 4G LTE communication systems, the top priority is always for voice calling. Okay, anything else other than SMS or data, internet, everything is second priority. Okay, so that is the goal with what is service. Now let's look at all these different generations of wireless communication systems. The first generation had key features which are given as follows. In the first generation, the spectrum was given free of cost to state-owned operators. Okay, the bandwidth was given for free for state-owned operators, that is something which is government operators. And however, the user equipment, subscription, and the cost of calling, the tariff is cost of calling and other things, were much higher as compared to even the most expensive handsets and calling costs that we have today. Okay, so their spectrum was free, but the user equipment, subscription, and the tariff were much higher. Okay, and that was in the first generation. Think of first generation is like your walkie-talkies. Okay, your walkie-talkies that police and kids used to use. Okay, so that's one example of it was all analog. Okay, the basic service in first generation systems was high quality voice calling. Voice transmission has always been the priority in any generation. Okay, even in the first generation it was like that. And the idea of there that time was we had excellent network coverage, and in some cases even fax was possible. A smile is fax. Fax was also possible. And that time, the wireless standards used were as follows. The most widely used wireless standard was probably the most famous one was AMPS in the US. AMPS is Advanced Mobile Phone System. This is the same as the one which was used with walkie-talkies and so on and so forth. That was in the US. In the European countries, there was another competitive standard called as Nordic Mobile Radio. This was in most European countries except for Germany. In Germany, there was something called a C network. And this is the nice thing about the C network. C network was the first standard to use or to propose SIM cards. Okay, so SIM cards are something that we even use in present day scenario as well. And additionally, the handover, that is roaming between European countries, was not possible. If you go from one country to other country, then you had to get another SIM corresponding to that particular country. And the life was like that time. And the orthogonal multiple access scheme used was the frequency division multiple access. So basically what people used to do is, so this is the, sorry. So this is the frequency axis. So each user was given different frequency bins. So this was given for user 1, this was given for user 2, and this was given for, let's say, user n. Okay, and each user used to access the cell phone service at the same time, but with different frequencies. That was FDMA. Coming to the second generation, in the second generation, we know that those who have used GSM, we know that GSM was the dominant standard. GSM stands for Group Special Mobile. That was the dominant standard, and it gained very it was very popular worldwide in the early 1990s. All of us, those who have used phones in the early 1990s, we know about GSM. Okay, GSM is also a dominant standard now. Okay, and there were other contemporary systems along with GSM. For example, in the US there was IS-95, and in the Japan there was Japanese Personal Digital. But we never have heard of this. At least I wouldn't have heard of this till I read this somewhere. But GSM is something everybody was familiar with. And that is when the revolution happened. Short messaging system, SMS, was introduced. Okay, and we all know how popular SMS became. For just like how WhatsApp is very famous today, SMS was very, very famous in at one point. And data services were first introduced in GSM. Okay, when I say data, I mean not necessarily voice. It can be image or video or audio. And the speed at that time was 9.2 kbps. And this was further enhanced in the general packet radio service, GPRS. And also there was something called as the enhanced data rate for GSM evolution, edge technology. Okay, even now, on your sometimes when you don't have signal in your phone, you might see something called as E. Okay, so usually it will be 3G or 4G, which is written right on the phone top right corner. Sometimes you might see as E, and E is actually edge. Okay, so sometimes you might also see something called as H or H plus. This H is HSPA. Okay, so these are all standards that were dominant. And this is the nice thing about this particular GSM. The user equipment became smaller and smaller. The mobile phones became very, very small, and also they became light. And the extended battery lifetime was the additional feature. If you compare all these heavy mobile phones with the mobile phones at that time, all the Nokia phones, right? Nokia was very, very famous that time. They are all very, very light. And the orthogonal scheme used at that time was in 2G was TDMA. In TDMA, what happens is instead of frequency, we now have the time axis, and each user is given different time slots. Okay, so this is for user 1, this is for user 2, and then so on and so forth. This is for user n, and this was done over the same frequency. Okay, all the users used the same frequency, but they used different time slots to transmit, and it was done so fast that you could not see the delay. That is the idea. It was TDMA. Coming to third generation, in third generation, what happened was spectrum allotment was done through an open market auction. Okay, so people saw that 2G was becoming very famous, GSM became very, very famous, so they got greedy, especially the European countries such as UK and Germany. So they thought that we'll have spectrum allotment via open market auction. We will have an auction where people will quote for all these bandwidths, and they were all very, very high price that time. And with so much Halagulla, UMTS, Universal Mobile Telecommunication System was introduced. Look at the name, Universal Mobile Telecommunication System. So this was supposed to be something which is universal, and this was supposed to be very, very big. And the data rate was 2 megabits per second, as opposed to 9.8 kilobits per second that we had in case of GSM. So this is a massive amount of data rate. Okay, but unfortunately, UMTS turned out to be a super hype, and it was a failure. Okay, if you don't believe me, how many of us know about UMTS, right? How many of us know about GSM? A lot of us. But how about UMTS? No. UMTS also, the reason why it became a failure is because it faced a severe competition from WLAN technology. Okay, WLAN was gaining more and more popularity, and the reason why WLAN was more popular is because it provided good connectivity with higher data rates for cheaper price. Okay, basically 3G UMTS was very, very costly, and this was very, very cheap. And also the problem was the auction-based regulation and non-user friendly mobile phones. There were like different types of mobile phones. Reliance used to have its own 3G mobile phone and so on and so forth, right? So they were one of the reasons why, some of the reasons why several industries went bankrupt, and they quit the cellular business. So basically 3G was a failure in front of 2G and even 1G. And the orthogonal multiple access scheme they used was CDMA. CDMA is the dominant technology in 3G. So in this case, instead of time frequency, we have something called as code. Okay, and each user was assigned different types of codes, right? So this is for user 1, this is for user 2, and this is for user n. And the nice thing about these codes is that they were all orthogonal with each other, right? And with this, each user was able to access the entire bandwidth at the same time with the different code without interfering with each other. And this is the reason why we had data rates very, very high, all the way up to something like 2 megabits per second. It was because of CDMA. So they had high hopes about this, but it was failure. And coming to the fourth generation, UMTS was a failure, but WLAN was a success. So success of WLAN thought of the cellular system to get into LTE, long-term evolution. Okay, so basically long-term evolution is essentially a cleverly modified version of WLAN, because WLAN was famous that time. Many operators got the spectrum licenses for significantly less money as compared to what was quoted. Okay, and quoted during the 3G time. And fourth generation also introduced elimination of roaming charges. So roaming became basically free across countries, across states, and also services such as voice calling, SMS, and data, they became like really cheap. And the maximum speed promised by LTE is about 300 megabits per second in the uplink and 50 megabits per second in the uplink. Sorry, 300 megabits per second in the downlink and 50 megabits per second in the uplink. So this is a huge increase as compared to CDMA. And the technology which was similar to VoIP, voice over IP, was something called as VoLTA. VoLTA is voice over LTE. Okay, and this came in because again, a lot of emphasis was given on speech, and this time transmission on not only cellular but also on IP, internet protocol, was given much high priority, and that is why voice over LTE became more famous and one of the dominant technologies, and that has given improved speech codec rates and also voice quality. Okay, currently LTE is being improved with technologies such as MIMO, massive MIMO, in fact, massive multiple input, multiple output systems. That is, many antennas at the transmitter and many antennas at the receiver, and also device-to-device communications. I'll talk about what these are in a while. And the orthogonal multiple access scheme used in this case is the OFDMA. Okay, for the first time, people went out from single carrier modulation to multi-carrier modulation. And by the way, if you have any questions at this point of time, please feel free to jot down those questions in the chat engine, and we will be able to I think the organizers may please ask those questions to me, and then I will be happy to answer this. So here is a table which gives you a comparison of 1G, 2G, 3G, and 4G technologies. Okay, so a lot of parameters here. One thing that you should observe is for every year, 80s we had one, 90s we had one, 2000s we had one, 2009 we had one. Okay, so that is one thing. And I told you multiple access technology. We had FDMA, TDMA, CDMA, and OFDMA. Okay, and what are other features? There are several other features. You see, for example, data rates that are offered. Data rate in the initial case was about 14 kbps, which went to the max of 14 kbps here. This is 3 Mbps and then went all the way up to 100 Mbps in 4G. Okay, so massive data rates. And this was dominantly voice call based, and voice call SMS came here. Then we went to video conference, mobile TV, and also very high speed applications. Vehicular, if you're trying to move on a vehicle and then try to download movie or something, all those things are possible in 4G. Okay, at least that was the promise that was given. Now coming to the 5th generation, what is about 5G? What is in store? What do we have in 5G? Okay, so 5G has already been implemented in several countries at several capacities, including in India, and the data rate improvement is about 10 to 20 gigabits per second. Again, much higher as compared to 4G. And the latency is end-to-end delay, and that is about 1 millisecond. Okay, very small delay. So think of it like you're trying to, as I told you, another example is you're trying to go, you're going on a vehicle at a very high speed, and then you should be able to still download a movie at a very fast speed, at a high data rate. Okay, the movie can be of very large size. You'll be able to still download it, and the latency is very small, and you should be able to still manage with that. Okay, and in 5G, there is what is called as device-to-device communications and machine-to-machine communications, leading to the successful implementation of Internet of Things. Okay, so this is where we have now come to. Internet of Things is basically connecting everybody to everybody else. Okay, so all the devices are supposed to be interconnected with each other, and for that, you have something like device-to-device communications, which is very helpful. The idea of device-to-device communications is as follows. Let's say that you are trying to call your friend who is in the next building. Okay, don't worry about power line communications for now. You have a friend who is in the next building, and right now, what happens is that when you establish a call, the call first connects to the nearest base station, and from that base station, again your friend is reached. Okay, so it's like going through a different path completely. So you are here, your friend is here. So it will first reach the base station and the base station will talk to this. Instead of this, why can't you talk to each other directly? Because you're in close proximity, right? Wirelessly, because you're in close proximity. And device to device communication exactly does this. Okay, each device will be able to talk to each other whenever they are in close proximity. Okay, so that's about device to device. Machine to machine is the same version, but at a slightly higher level, not at the level of cell phones. Okay? Maybe in the context of industrial Internet of Things, machine to machine communications are also possible. Okay? And there are various applications of 5G. Some applications include vehicular networks, as I told you. Okay, in vehicular networks, having driverless cars, you should be able to download movies at large file, large number of files at a short time with low latency. All these things are possible. You have e-health. In this case, you have a situation where some operation is going on remotely, and then the doctors cannot afford to lose the connection. You need good amount of connectivity, education, and also industrial IoT. The applications that people are thinking about. And there are some key innovations for 5G. I will be talking about them in greater detail. Okay, I'm just going to name them here: massive MIMO, cognitive radios, millimeter wave communications, network virtualization, and software defined networking. So these are some of the key innovation technologies. Okay. However, there are some people who believe that 5G is super hyped, very similar to 3G. Okay, remember UMTS? What was the fate of UMTS? It was a big flop. And some people also believe that 5G is also going to be a big flop, because the services and promises in 5G are very similar to what was there in 3G time. Okay, and believe me, every day I'm actually going closer and closer to this conclusion. I think that 5G might not be as big as how it was envisioned to be, but we'll just wait and see for some more time. People are already talking about the sixth generation, that is 6G communication systems. There are already white papers available on 6G communication systems. So you'll never know what. Let's just wait and watch what happens to 5G. But for now, let's move on. So why do we require 5G? There are some key requirements for 5G communication systems. Okay, you need to first accommodate massive number of users. Okay, so basically what does that mean is, think of a situation where you have a fest in the college, or you have orientation program, or you have like a nice lecture where a lot of people will come and attend. Okay, at that time, what happens is a lot of people will be trying to connect to the internet, and then that will cause a lot of network traffic, and there will be a cloggage, right? So it will be completely clogged. So you should be still able to accommodate more number of users and then give seamless connectivity to everybody. And the second thing is, you need to have like low complexity receivers. You cannot afford to have supercomputers in your hand. Okay, so your devices that you think about, they should also be like very light, and they should be low complex. Whenever you're talking to somebody, you should not wait for a long time to hear what they are saying. Remember what used to happen in the analog days, that is on the landline phone days. Whenever you used to have a call across countries, sometimes those guys used to speak, and then after 1 or 2 minutes, the the voice packet used to reach the receiver. Okay, so those type of things are not required, and that is also related to high spectral and high energy efficiency. That means you need to have higher data rates. Energy efficiency is defined to be equal to the capacity, or the data rate divided by the energy consumed. So if you want high energy efficiency, your data rate to be high and the energy consumed to be less. So you need to have devices which consume lesser and lesser energy. Okay, so that's the idea. And moreover, you also have requirement on low latency. Latency is the delay. So as I told you, again, the same example of speaking over the phone to your friend, or you're trying to download a movie, there should not be very large amount of delays, then people will get bored. So that low latency also has to be taken care into account. Okay, so those are the requirements in 5G. Now just let us look at this is the same set of slide, but with a little bit of more idea. So you have what is called as the massive Internet of Things realm. Lot of devices trying to connect to each other. Okay, you have challenges such as deep coverage. You need to see to it that you reach every device irrespective of wherever it is. You need ultra low energy. Okay, keep this point in mind, please. Ultra low energy, because what we talk about tomorrow and day after tomorrow will be based on ultra low energy. Okay, so that is another thing. And you also require ultra low complexity. Okay, so that it's something of the order of tens of bits per second. Okay, very computationally less algorithms. Ultra high density, you're going to have so many people given per kilometer square. I told you the example of having a function or something. High capacity, so that you'll be able to download large files very fast. Extreme data rates, multi gigabits per second, with peak data rates of 100 plus megabits per second over, so that everything is very fast. Okay, now these all come under the category of what is called as enhanced mobile broadband. So this is possible because of the broadband. Okay, and you need to have awareness. So awareness is also something which will ensure that you are being fair. That is, if you have a user who is very close to the base station and you have a user which is very far from the base station, then what the base station will do is it will keep on serving the nearest user because it will save on the power, right? That should not happen. It should be fair in the sense that even the farthest user should also get an equal opportunity to download whatever file that he wants to do. Okay, and coming to the mission critical control. Okay, so these are something which are very important for driverless cars and e-health applications. You need to have strong security. Nobody should be able to hack into your system, and you should have reliability, right? This is again a requirement. Ultra low latency, you cannot afford to have, like if you're trying to update maps or something like that, right? You cannot wait for too long to update the maps, and then the doctors cannot afford to wait for a long time when they're doing an operation remotely, and so on and so forth. And also you should be able to accommodate very high user mobility up to the 500 kilometers per hour or something like that. Okay, even if you're sitting in a bullet train, you should be able to have good connection. Okay, so that's some of the requirements. And all these 3 points that I mentioned, okay, think of it like this, enhanced mobile broadband on one side, massive IoT on the other side, and low latency on the other side. So all these are 3 different corners of, let's say, a triangle like this. All the applications that require 5G can be thought of something which is here, okay, inside this. For example, for those which want high data rates, okay, something like video streaming, 3D video with 4K screens, so they require high capacity. Okay, and for them latency is not a problem. Okay, latency may be okay, and you don't have massive number of devices there. Okay, so that's one requirement. And you know something like augmented reality stands somewhere between capacity enhancement and low latency, and also somewhere closer to these two guys rather than massive IoT. Okay, self-driving car, I told you, right? So in that, you cannot download like really 4K video or something like that. Okay, so it is very far from the capacity enhancement, but low latency is like a requirement in self-driving car. Okay, so that's the thing. Industrial and vehicular automation is also closer to low latency. Whereas coming to massive IoT, you have sensor networks where all different type of devices talk to each other, so that requires good connectivity. Okay, you cannot afford to lose connection. Their low latency and capacity may not be so much important. Okay, and voice is somewhere here. You see somewhere in the middle towards the centroid of the triangle. Okay, so what it means to say is that it needs to have good capacity, and a decent capacity, decent connectivity, and also decent latency. And that is always the case because voice is given high priority in any standard that you have. So here are some of the 5G technologies that that are important and that are game changers. Okay, a lot of them are listed here. Unfortunately, I won't have time to go through all of these, but I will only go through some technologies which I have given in red. Okay, massive MIMO and what is called as cooperative multi-point COMP. Okay, caching and D2D communications, device to device communications, millimeter wave communications, and also cognitive radio networks. So I will just talk about all these different 4 technologies in brief, so that we'll just have an idea of what are the driving technologies. Let's come to massive MIMO and coordinate multi-point COMP. Okay. So massive MIMO, the idea is as follows. You have a base station which has really large number of antennas on the base station. Okay, so this is possible. When I say large number of antennas, I'm not talking about 8, 16, or 32, maybe even beyond that, 128 antennas, 68 and 64 antennas, and so on and so forth. Okay, and all these guys, this antenna is trying to serve this particular cell. Okay, is given here. This is like a small cell. Okay, inside this small cell there is a base station of its own. Okay, and the base station will talk to these smaller base station through a wireless backhaul given dashed thing. Okay, so this backhaul can actually be wireless or it can even be wired. Okay, so this will give you some set of instructions to these local base stations, and local base stations have their own user equipments which they will serve. Okay, now this base station, for example, this local base station will be able to serve these users given these 3 users. Okay, and these are all like small cell channels which are given here in this. Okay, now there are also some other users which might be direct, out of this cellular region. This, for example, this user belongs to neither this cell or this cell, right? So it is outside both the cells. So therefore, this can directly talk to the macro cell. Okay, so this is done by the COMP technology, coordinated multipoint. So basically, where beamforming can be designed here at the base station so that this user can be served, and all these users which are outside the cell can talk to each other over device-to-device communications. Okay, remember I told you device-to-device is, for example, if this guy wants to talk to this user, this need not go all the way up to the base station and come back here. It can directly talk to this user like this. Okay, so this is D2D channels. Okay, so this is same thing with here also. Okay, now this is something which is which uses massive MIMO, coordinated multipoint, and D2D communications. Massive MIMO, we already saw that here on the antenna side, number of antennas is large. D2D communications is given here. Okay, coordinated multipoint, as I told you, is that this beam steering can be done to serve this particular cell or this particular cell or this particular cell or these devices, depending on what is the available, depending on several factors. For example, fairness, and then quality of service, and then so on and so forth. Okay, and the second one is caching and D2D communications. Okay, so let's consider this scenario. You have a base station, and you have Rachel and you have Tommy here. Okay, let's say that in what happens in this case is that you have also a small cell base station here. Generally, typically what happens is, let's say that Tommy, there is one file which is divided into 2 different subfiles. Okay, let's call it as 1 and 2. Let's say that Tommy wants to download this file 1. Okay, so it is split into 1 and 2, right? So generally what happens is Tommy will be connected to this small base station, and he will be able to download both 1 and 2 from this particular base station. Okay, so this is what typically happens. Okay, now what happens in the case where you have caching and D2D communications? This is what happens. Okay, you have a file which is called as file 1. It is split into 2 different subfiles, 1 and 2. Let's call it as green part and blue part. Okay, so what happens in this case is that Rachel, let's say that she will download the blue part from this particular base station and keeps it with herself in her mobile. Okay, now what Tommy does is Tommy is moving from here to here, let's say. Okay, he's just walking. So then without his knowledge, what Tommy will be able to do is he will be able to download the green part from this particular base station. And the moment he comes closer to Rachel, excuse me, he can download the blue part from the Rachel's mobile directly without even connecting to the small base station. Okay, so what Tommy is doing here by downloading the file 2 or the blue part from Rachel directly is D2D. This is D2D communication, right? Device to device. Rachel's device to Tommy's device. And what Rachel is doing here is trying to download this blue part and storing it in her mobile. So this is what is called as caching. So caching is basically downloading and keeping a part of file in your computer. Okay, think of it like this. Think of this as like a very popular video, either a news piece or something. Okay, so then everybody will want to download this, correct? So in that case, what happens is, the base station will not be able to serve everybody. This is a very popular video. So what you can do is you can download a part of the video from the small cell base station and a part of the video from somebody else who has already downloaded and stored it in their computer or in their mobile phone. Okay. So this is the principle of caching, and this will enhance the data rate. It will also reduce the latency because here downloading of 1 has to happen first, followed by 2. Okay, whereas here, while maybe his downloading would have finished here, and then immediately he can get into download of 2, and because of the close vicinity, his channel gain might be good, and then he'll be able to also download 2 much faster. Okay, all these things are possible. And this is another scenario where you have different set of people. You have, let's say, Tommy here, you have Rachel here, you have, let's say, Eva here, and you have Cindy here, you have Suri here. All these names, they don't matter. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, if there is a file which has 4 segments, yellow part, green part, blue part, and red part, okay, Tommy can probably download the green part from the base station. Okay, or he can, or let's look at Rachel. I think that's much easier. Rachel can download this part 4, the red part, from the nearest base station. She can download part 3, the blue part, from, let's say, somebody like here Suri, and she can download the green part from Tommy, and she can also download the yellow part from Eva. Okay, because she is close by to all these 4 different people, and depending on their mobility, if Suri is here and if he already has 3 cached in his phone, okay, and whenever he goes closer to Rachel will be able to download the file from there, so on and so forth. Okay, so now Rachel's job is much easier as compared to downloading everything from the base station. This is another example of caching with D2D. Now the third one which I want to quickly talk about is the millimeter wave communications. Okay, I told you, driverless cars and so on and so forth. So currently 4G is limited up to 6 gigahertz. So whatever we work on is what is called as sub 6 gigahertz spectrum. Okay, so this is exclusively used for 4G, but 5G looks into spectrum which is beyond 24 gigahertz all the way up to 100 gigahertz. So remember what is the relationship between V and remember V is equal to F lambda, right? Or I can directly write this as lambda is equal to C divided by F, right? So if the frequency is large, we are looking at 24 gigahertz to 100 gigahertz. If the frequency is large, then lambda, the wavelength, will be smaller and smaller, correct? So when frequency is of the order of gigahertz, the wavelength will be of the order of millimeters. So that's why this is millimeter wave communication. Any communication that happens in this regime is millimeter wave communications. Okay. Now, this is just to tell you a little bit about what are the different spectra that are available in millimeter wave communications, right? For example, around this frequency range, you have an unlicensed spectrum. Okay, several other spectrum are licensed. Okay, and so on and so forth. You can find some information on millimeter wave communications online as well. Okay, so this is between 20 hertz to 100 gigahertz. You'll have even more spectrum at 100 gigahertz. But what is the problem? The problem is if you have lower frequencies, then you will be able to reach farther distances. If you have millimeter wave range, your distance will be of the order of tens of meter. If it is more than that, it will be just be of the order of several meters or so. So for self-driving cars, your car, whatever the car is, right? So it will be able to check whether there is a target present or not for anywhere from 10 to 50 meters. So that is good enough, right? So that's why millimeter wave is used exclusively in driverless cars. And the other technology is the cognitive radio technology. Okay. Continuous increase in wireless communications related applications have led to several problems, including there is different quality of service requirements in mobile data demand. There is multimedia download, there is web browsing, gaming, and social networking. Okay, current license spectra are significantly underutilized, and cognitive radio is a promising technology which is a solution for this particular problem. So the problem is like this. So let's say that this is the okay, let me be a little more. Let's say that this is the spectrum. So on this particular spectrum, let's say that you have all these users. These users are all licensed users. Okay, not all users will be active. This is licensed user 1, licensed user 2, licensed user 3, and then so on and so forth, licensed user n. When I say licensed user, they would have brought this particular spectrum. Okay, for example, think of this can be Airtel, this can be Vodafone, this can be BSNL, so on and so forth. This can be some XYZ. It doesn't matter. Now, the idea is not all of them will be active at any given instant of time. Okay, so in fact, the studies have showed that 70 to 80% of the time, lot of these bands are inactive. Okay, I'm not talking about cellular bands only. I'm talking about the entire spectrum. Okay, so what the cognitive radio does is the cognitive radio networks will look for whether this is being occupied or not. If it is being occupied, it will go to the next band, check this one. Let's say that LU3 is not occupied. Then the communication will happen here in this band. And once the LUT comes back, the cognitive radio will quit. Okay, so the cognitive radio essentially is looking for what are called as spectrum holes. Okay, spectrum holes are basically those bandwidths which are not currently under use. So with this, what you can do is till the primary user comes back or till the license user comes back, you will still be able to communicate over the same band. So this is very good, right? And cognitive radio also has a special interest group in 5G. And if anybody is interested, you can take a look at this particular reference. Now, cognitive radios are also used with Internet of Things. Okay. Remember, I still haven't talked about what is Internet of Things. I'm going to talk about what is Internet of Things a little bit tomorrow, because I think on the 4th day there is an overview of IoT which is going to be given in greater detail, I presume. So therefore, cognitive radios are also used with Internet of Things. Okay. So let's look at a couple of cases where cognitive radios and Internet of Things are tied with each other. So before we proceed, I just want to ask the organizers, how much time do I have?
You can continue.
Sir?
Okay. Is it okay if I take 10 minutes more?
Oh, okay.
Yes,
no problem,
yes, sir. Yes, sir. No
Go
problem.
ahead.
Okay, fine. Thanks. So we will just look at a few cases where cognitive radios are used with Internet of Things. This one is basically a cognitive radio based Internet of Things scenario. Okay. You have a primary transmitter. This is the license user. Think of it like Airtel or Vodafone or BSNL or whatever it can be, right? So these are all licensed users, and it is serving. This is in the cellular context. It can be anything. For example, TV tower is also a licensed user, right? So these are all dedicated receivers. This is primary receiver 1, primary receiver 2, primary receiver 3, and primary receiver 4. If this primary base station is active, okay, if it is active, then it will be serving all these users. Okay, if it is not active, okay, in the same band, several IoT related applications can actually be thought of. Okay, for example, let this be the cognitive radio IoT transmitter. So what is the idea of this particular transmitter is to try to serve different types of IoT based applications. Okay, so there is one here, there is one here. Okay, so let's say that this is actually talking about a body area network. So in body area network, what happens is that you can have a robot which is as small as a pill, which you can directly take with water or something, and then detection of any problem inside the human body or something that can happen, or if monitoring of continuous level of oxygen or BP or anything of this sort can also come in this body area network domain. And there can be a lot of patients, and talking exchanging information from one patient to the central node can all happen over this particular licensed bandwidth, okay, whenever this guy is not using. So body area network is one of these such networks. The other network can be home area network. Okay, home area network I will just describe in greater detail next. The other one can be a D2D network, device to device network, where different devices talk to each other through device to device communications. For example, this router can talk to this phone, it can talk to this particular gadget, and so on and so forth. And there can be another transmitter which will have another set of network elements which belongs to vehicular networks. Okay, there can be a vehicle which is like moving very, very fast, and it needs to download some some file or some updating maps or things like that, or also infotainment services where you have information plus also entertainment, right? So all these things are possible, and maybe this CRIoT transmitter will use this particular spectrum owned by the primary network to serve this particular thing whenever the primary network is not active. Okay, so this is the entire IoT scenario. Maybe a typical example for an IoT scenario where you have home area network, body area network, vehicular network, and also D2D network as a part of all these things. So this collectively gives you the Internet of Things regime. So this is one CR based IoT scenario. I told you that we will talk about CR based IoT for smart homes. So here it is. So let's say that there is a cognitive radio transmitter here. Okay, so this is typically a home environment where you have in the living room you have something like a pressure sensor and a smoke sensor, and in your kitchen you might have refrigerators, microwave ovens, and then so on and so forth. And this can directly talk to the pressure sensor, continuously trying to see what is the pressure, what is the temperature, and then also trying to see if there is a smoke detection or not. Okay, so these things are possible by using the cognitive radio transmitter. And on the bedroom there might be a temperature sensor which will set the value, set the temperature in your AC to whatever value that you want. You might have a smart lamp which you want it to be on whenever you are inside the room and off whenever you are not there in the room. Okay, so that's another example in a smart home scenario. And you might have another dedicated connection with what is called as the IoT based smart home central controller. In this central controller, all the small devices will talk to each other, that is through the central controller. Refrigerator, microwave oven, washing machine, water heater, or or even a fan perhaps. Okay, remote control fan perhaps. You have remote control fans now, right? So all these things are possible through a central controller. When the central controller has access to both refrigerator and let's say microwave oven, that means to say that these two can talk to each other through this, right? So that's another idea. And you might have this might be installed, there might be several application graphical user interfaces installed here. And then all these things, think of the scenario where you are trying to drive back to home from wherever you are starting, and you would want your coffee maker to heat up your coffee. And you can probably do that in the next coming decades by talking to your coffee machine remotely, so that before you reach home you can have a nice hot cup of coffee related stuff already under prepared. Or if you want, you can cold up your cold drink or something like that, right? All these things are possible. And whenever you are nearing your home, you need to have, like, if you want your garage door to be open automatically, these things are possible as well. Okay, so this is again CR based IoT for smart homes. And CR based IoT is also used in disaster management. Disaster management is like emergency services, like what the situation that we are facing right now, right? COVID situation. If you think of an area where there is a massive COVID number of COVID patients, COVID-19 patients, and then your base station given in that particular village or the area is not able to support all these people, right? In that case, what you can have is, you can probably think of a mobile cognitive radio base station which is moving, and this might be connected to the ground station, and it might also talk to the emergency vehicle trying to ask it to come to wherever it thinks it's required. And there is a remote site which is also trying to connect to the central ground station, and this can actually talk through satellite. And then there is this helicopter which is trying to save these people, and then it might even talk to all these individual nodes, and also the small base stations and mobile base stations also. Okay, so this comes in handy, especially in the scenario where you have a damaged mobile damaged base station in a given. Think of it like there is a because of the rainfall or something, this is completely damaged, right? In that case, you can still instruct the personnel to go and discuss and then move around so that they can come in handy to those people who are in needy by getting into the cognitive radio technology. This is again like an Internet of Things framework, but CR based. That is, cognitive radio is driving this particular IoT technology. Okay, so this is what I have for today. I think what we looked at is a brief recap on 1G to 4G communication systems, and we also looked into what 5G communications are. We looked at the fact that 5G communication systems pose several challenges in terms of data rates and latency. We want the data rates to be as high as possible and the latency to be as low as possible. Okay, and Internet of Things is one of the visions which is there in 5G technology. I haven't talked about Internet of Things today, but I will talk about it tomorrow. And also there are several key technologies which drive 5G communication systems. I picked only 4 of them which are important, that I thought are important currently: massive MIMO and coordinated multi-point comp, caching and device-to-device communications, millimeter wave communications, and also cognitive radio networks. Cognitive radio networks in particular can be helpful in realizing Internet of Things in various scenarios. Okay, so for tomorrow's talk, we will look into Internet of Things. What are challenges in the Internet of Things scenario? What is it basically? What are the challenges? And what are the trends, research trends in that? And then also we will be taking a look at one nice technology which will drive the Internet of Things, which is called as the ambient backscattering communication, also called as ABC. So we will see what this ABC is and how will it help in realizing the Internet of Things applications. Okay, so thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
The participants, if you want to ask anything, you can just unmute your audio and ask your question.
You can either ask the questions directly, or you can, put those questions on the chat box engine. Anything is fine, whatever is you're convenient about. Okay, so I don't know if there are any questions on the chat box.
No, so far, no questions, sir. Only plus only.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So very good response we got from this session, sir.
Okay, I'm glad that all the participants were able to get something out of this. If you have any doubts or if you need any clarification, please feel to reach out to me on my email sanjeevg@pes.edu. Okay, and more about me on my profile can be looked in on my web link, which is given here. You can just search for my name on Google, and then you should be able to get into the web link.
Okay, Dr. Sanjeev. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Yeah, participants, that's all for today. Tomorrow at the same time, we'll reach here. Okay. Yeah.
So we'll continue with this tomorrow. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, one of the participant asking question, sir.
Okay, sure.
Sir, Mr. R. Ravi Kumar is asking about if 5G is not creating that must be business, how 6G is going to evolve?
Very good question. So my understanding is, remember, 3G was a failure. Okay, so people saw that wireless LAN was growing more as compared to 3G. So therefore, they took the idea of wireless LAN and cleverly modified it for 4G. Okay. In the same way, there is several versions of Wi-Fi. There is Wi-Fi 6, and people are also talking about Wi-Fi 7, and so on and so forth. So these things are available, and you might see something which might, people always learn from their mistakes, basically. Okay, so 5G, they saw that there are a lot of mistakes, and there will be some other technology that for example, Internet of Things, low power devices. So these all can actually dictate 6G communication systems. So it's always like that. You learn from your mistakes and you pick some other technology, and so on and so forth. People are not going to stop there, therefore. Yeah.
And sir, most of the participants are asking for slides, sir, actually.
Okay.
They want your presentation slides.
Okay.
What my suggestion is, at the end of the session, like 3-day session,
right,
we can send all those to the mails. Okay.
So maybe we can do that. Yeah.
Okay. With your permission only.
In the Telegram group would be nice.
Sorry, I can't hear clearly. Can you please repeat it?
If the slides can be shared on the Telegram group today itself, that will be much better, because if questions are there, we can ask you tomorrow also.
Okay, so I will yeah, try to send you the slides today itself. Okay.
Today.
One more question, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Radiation is high in 5G communication. Is it true or not, sir? One of the participants has asked this question.
Which effect? Radiation effect. Okay, okay. So yeah, so there are two things here. One is the environmental aspect, and the other one is engineering aspect. Always there is going to be some kind of a problem to the environment, right? Whatever we do. For example, when 3G came to Bangalore had so many of these sparrow birds, and all of them, they just basically disappeared. And now sparrows are very, very rare in Bangalore. So there will always be a radiation effect or whatever effects of such sort. But as engineers, our goal is something different, and also I think every standard also comes with enough protection for environment and things like that. So yeah, so that's my answer.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anything else? We can end here.
Okay, so just wait for 1 minute. If there is any other question, please ask me. Otherwise, we will just end. I'm just trying to see if there is any question on the chat box.
Yes.
Okay. So some people have asked for feedback form. Feedback form is one more thing. If you can directly tell me the feedback, then it will be even more good. So that, yeah. See, the one kind of unfortunate thing about the online sessions is that, unless there is an interaction, we will never come to know like what, other things are happening. So, yeah,
Yes.
what other people are feeling and things like that. Yeah.
Yes.
No, the subject matter is very much new. That's the reason we are just grasping the things.
Yes.
That's the reason we are not having any of the queries, because this is a absolutely new subject.
Okay. Okay.
And
I'm
the
glad.
session was very nice.
Okay. Thank you.
And we just want to have a look on your slides, and probably any more questions will be asked tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Sanjeev.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Question,
Okay.
sir.
Okay.
Sir, one more question. When is 5G going to be present in India practically?
Present. Oh, Airtel has announced, right, already. There are some deployment things already happening. Reliance also has 5G network going up. So it's already there. Yeah. There was one more question. Any research scope towards 5G? Yes, lots and lots. I told you, right? So wireless communication is very rich in research. So you will have so much of research scope. Okay. Thank you. If there are no questions, then I will see all of you tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Venkatratnam, sir.